wire it together if I like get stuck or something. So,
yeah, exactly. All right. So I'll just restart here so that we can get all the
cool.
steps
Yeah.
down, recorded.
Awesome.
So I'm starting to record now. Yep. And so, so forking the Signal DAO and creating your own Signal DAO. Currently, it's a quite manual process, but we'll make that less manual in the future. So we'll spin up a Node-RED instance for you guys, and then also insert essentially this webhook flow as well as the Signal DAO finale flow. And from there, I'll send you these instructions and also include some documentation to go along with it. But you'll have a Telegram API key that you go to the bot father, and then you just hit new bot. And then it's going to ask you, oh, I have too many bots, but it will ask you, okay, what's the name of your bot? And then you just follow the steps until it gives you this access token. After that, you go into the Signal DAO and you insert the access token here, and you can rename the bot. And you hit update. Once you hit update, you should also hit deploy. That way it's engaged. And that takes care of the Telegram interface side. The next is the Airtable APIs. So in order to get the Airtable APIs, you'll go to the help and hit the API documentation. You also go to your account. The API documentation will give you your app ID, and the account will give you your API key. And for the Airtable APIs, you go to your webhooks, you find an Airtable node, and then you change your APIs here. So this is your app ID, that's your API key. After that, actually, I guess the first thing you will actually have to download the CSV file that I send you for this Airtable base, and that will give you all of the correct data fields, so you don't have to reconstruct anything, and so the system will listen to and respond in the proper way. So let's see. Once that's done, you insert the Airtable API keys, and you go back to those steps. Then you have the different forms. You have a membership form, a DAO form, and a proposal form. And let's see. So each form is like, you have a DAO form. This is to create the DAO. And you will need to change the redirect here to include, it won't be abridged because that's our base, but it will be your base name. And then slash Airtable slash like launch DAO question mark. You have to include this at the end of the Node-RED instance. So you copy and paste this, and then add that abridged for us slash Airtable, etc. And that you'll insert into this redirect, and then you can change the message that is that it's like responding with right here. You do that for the DAO form. You also do it for the membership proposal down here, and then you do it for the project proposal. Cool. And then and each of these, like one will be, you'll include the type of action. So you do the launch DAO, membership, and then proposal. So I'll send you these, and you can just copy and paste them.
Well, and if we wanted to add others in there too, we could, like for like redeem or
sure, other form options or yeah, absolutely. And then the last piece is that for inside of this DAO, there's going to be Airtable forms for the users to fill out. So let me see, how can let's see if I do this. Okay. And so for every place that there's a form, you have to like reassign the form for your Signal DAO. So oh yeah, so this is actually, I can just delete that. But this is essentially, these are the basic steps. And and like there will be some messaging nodes that you can change. So we can help, like once you guys have the APIs set, we can help with like helping change this different messaging and find the nodes that are relevant there. But yeah, it's often like you just are command Fing and then you can search for different functions or features that are going on. So actually,
So then someone could like wire up a different like, you know, configuration like this, and then just have that as like a file that you can download to load up a pre-configured kind of template for this. Or someone could like take this template and fork it and then add a couple extra apps for like a different like DAO model or something, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Cool. Okay.
And like ideally we want to like we could probably create, so I guess like if we go with just the Signal DAO spec, we'd likely try and create a bot that the user can talk to, and then you can just insert like these things essentially, and it gives a general, okay, here's your Signal DAO, and it'll give you the different pieces of that, like you know, DAO information, etc.
Yeah, that'd be great, because then if as a user you can just like add the Signal bot or something to your you know, channel, and then just like respond to like 10 different messages, and then you're off to the races. That would be awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then developers or admins who or power users who want to like actually like create a custom experience or add different apps or whatever, then they can go into this entire process with, you know, connecting all the things and whatnot.
Right. And then I guess so there would be like some distinct the differences between maybe the Signal DAO and maybe this like the DAO that's on mainnet for Aragon is that it's going to send, rather than, it'll send like proposal information, but maybe it's pulling that information from the actual like on-chain contract, because they'll be submitting proposals. They won't be submitting proposals via Airtable, right?
Oh, right, because in this situation, the whole thing kind of connects to Airtable. So actually, wait, does this thing actually connect to anything on chain? Like, where
Yeah.
does the on chain part happen here?
Yeah, no, it is all happening on chain. We're using Airtable as essentially a caching layer, where I can show you the actual Signal DAO, where every time it's literally caching all of the contract interactions.
Okay.
And then it's defining those types of interactions. And so we could, I think, like an on-chain, yeah, let's see. I'm trying to think about, because we have the system with the Airtable, it will be interesting to understand how to do it with like just relying on-chain data, and I'm sure we can do that. And I'm unsure if we'd hook it up to Airtable or if we'd be able to just pull that data from the chain as it's being like launched, or if we could listen to maybe like the Aragon proposal. But you guys aren't storing like proposal data anywhere, right? Like as Aragon, you're just an interface for submitting contracts, right?
Yeah. So I think most everything happens on chain, and then the client itself, just the buttons to push or whatever, is the thing that's cached. But I need to talk to Brett to understand exactly how that works. But yeah, as far as I know, it's like as minimal and light as possible, and it doesn't
Totally,
really store any data, as far as I know.
totally. Um, okay. Um, so yeah, I would need to. I would just check in with my dev team to see what we would do about the caching layer essentially. Because if you want exactly the same thing essentially as like the Signal DAO, we need to figure either the cache. Yeah, we'd either like populate the data because like as project proposals are being submitted, for instance, it's like this is all the data that the Signal DAO is like, okay, great, it's just pulling from the Airtable API, pushing it into the Telegram sender. Um,
Mm-hmm.
a and you know I think like the access bot and the info bot are a decent first step to listen to the chain and then also start refining exactly what people are listening to. And so like if we want to gear it more for like back toward the original grant proposal, I'd be open to including like doing this like Signal DAO and then including the access and info bot maybe as like part of the success reward or something like that. And that's probably where we'd begin as far as our development is we create the info bot that is listening to the contract, and then we'd start being more granular about the things it's listening to. So if you are a DAO participant, you can go to the info bot, and it's just one bot, and it's talking. It's like it essentially is like it has a contract listener and then some information, and then it's essentially what you described in the spec, where um, you'll connect to the DAO, insert uh, relevant information as well as the Ethereum address and for the contract, and then it'll ping you information as it's being submitted to the DAO, or it'll ping you essentially any interactions that are happening in the DAO.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we have that developed, then we'll be able to. I think that would be a decent first step to like then move toward on-chain like Signal DAO, and yeah, um, and then we'd also have the access bot. That's just a single bot that people can
Mm-hmm.
insert into their group, and then it's correlating that group with a certain DAO contract and reading the membership, or actually, let's see, DAO contract, or actually, it's more correlating with like an access token. And then as people are entering the group, they have to insert their address that owns that access token. If they don't have the token, the bot will be like, sorry, you can't enter. See ya, and then boot it.
Mm-hmm.
And then until they have the token or have the right address that has the token, they'll allow for entrance into that group. How does that sound?
Yeah, and so for the token address thing, like I don't know if this is the best architecture for it, but I just thought that because you want to make sure that the address that the user has is actually the address that's there. Otherwise, you could just pull in a random one, so that you'd have the user actually sign a transaction proving that they own the address in question. And because it's a public-private key system, you don't actually have to do any of that on chain. You just verify the crypto right within the app. And then if the signature checks out that this user can sign a transaction with their private key for the public key of this address they're providing, then the bot would go check on chain to see if this address actually has the token required.
I
But I
see.
mean, that's in there. Yeah, because otherwise you could just go like look at the contract, see who the token holders are, grab an address, and be on your way. So
Right. Oh, that's
yeah.
actually okay. That's a good point. Yeah. That's a really good point. That I like that. It's just extra verification that this is in fact the holder of the MetaMask.
Mhm.
Essentially. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. No, I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. And also too, so Infobot, the way I wrote
Mm-hmm.
Infobot doesn't do anything on chain. It's like literally just the simplest if this then that bot I could conceive of.
Mm-hmm.
It is
Mm-hmm.
like it literally just if this and that. But yeah.
Is
So
it?
what you're saying is
Oh,
like
okay. Is it not listening to the contract address of the DAO?
no, I took that out because I just wanted to make it
Ah.
as simple as possible. I just like as
Oh,
simple as
okay.
possible.
Amazing. Okay.
Um,
Beauty. Beauty.
but so what you're saying is Infobot plus notifications, so then you can build in that kind of that listening layer, and then
Yeah.
from there that gives you a stepping stone towards Access Bot, which will then have to go use the listening layer to check for the token holdings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then from
And it,
there,
yeah.
you'll be able to build on that for the listening layer for Signal DAO, where users can actually take action within the chat to like or vote with likes within the chat to get stuff done. Is that what kind of what you're thinking?
That's right. The one piece about the Signal DAO is that
Mm-hmm.
it will still direct toward a instead of like so it's back to the it'll give like pretty much all the functionality of the Signal DAO, and then when it comes to voting, the only difference between like this implementation and the Signal DAO implementation would be that it gives you a link. Um, because if we're in the Telegram interface, it would require a guardian key to be associated to sign for you upon the bot interaction.
Mm-hmm.
But if it
So,
just gives you a link, then you can go to your MetaMask, and it's like more of a notification for people who already have MetaMask that are involved in the DAO.
so this so how does this guardian key thing work? Because like
Yeah.
the real thing here that is like that is driving this that I care the most about is
Mm-hmm.
that I can click that little thumbs up sign and
Mm-hmm.
vote. Like that
Okay.
is the thing I want. Like
Okay.
likes
If
are
that's what
votes.
you
Like
want,
that is
yeah.
so cool.
If
Yeah.
that's the thing that you need, I think that I can like draw up with my team and try like do our best. Like so, for instance, right now, the key, and because this is on Kovan, this is the private key that's created whenever someone comes into the DAO, right? It's just creating
Yeah.
an address and a private key, and
Yeah.
this isn't ideal, right? But
Right.
if we're able to create this private key in either an encrypted interface or use maybe a torus, for instance, um, then it becomes more feasible. Um, and so, yeah, and so let me like check in on that, and we can make that as like an absolute goal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and another option actually would be to integrate into. So actually, we're working with Telefuel right now, and
Yeah.
Telefuel has an open API, an open front end. And so with Telefuel, you could do a non-custodial
Oh.
path for this private key interaction. Whereas like, you know, if you're in Telegram, just normally it would require you to either move to Telefuel or send you a link to go to your MetaMask to sign the transaction.
Well, question. So
Mm-hmm.
is that a link? When you say a link, does that mean that MetaMask just pops up and asks you to sign? Or does that mean it takes you out of the chat to the DAO client, then you have to click the button, then MetaMask, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So those are two very
So
different experiences.
you're right. And so it depends on if we're into, so it depends on who we're building for. We're building for current Aragon DAO members who have like MetaMask and like are keen on using MetaMask, or are we building
Mm-hmm.
for new DAO members who want to just onboard and not even think about decentralized anything? For the I know but I think we do both. I think
Yeah.
ultimately we need both options, right? Like it's not like
Hmm.
we don't have to choose one or the other. These aren't mutually exclusive. We'll have both eventually. It's just what do we optimize for first.
Yeah.
And it feels like we optimize for the old MetaMask members at the moment.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so for optimizing for that, then we would it would essentially be like a link to the voting app, and then they would like if they're on their browser, they'd copy and paste it into their Chrome or whatever browser has their MetaMask, and then it would immediately pop up the MetaMask, and it would be good to go.
Hmm.
Or if it was on their mobile,
Oh,
they could maybe open it in I guess in their MetaMask browser potentially.
yeah, but so like since
Mm-hmm.
all you have to do to sign the transaction is
Mm-hmm.
actually sign it with the key, right? So that's why you can like sign something on an air-gapped computer, then take that signature with the transaction and then go to like MyCrypto or some other thing and then actually submit it onto the chain so
Mm-hmm.
that then your super secure computer never touches the internet or whatever. Can we just kind of do the same thing here where like the user signs the TX right there in the chat? So like you click the like button, right? It
Right.
pops up a thing saying, hey, do you want to sign? You click to sign, and then a meta TX relayer just grabs that and throws it on the chain.
That is interesting. So I want to. Let me see if that's possible. I would love like
Okay.
if it's a I mean if it's not a contract account, I'm I don't think meta transactions work for private keys.
Oh, crap. All right.
Right, right. But I'm like curious if we could potentially build some sort of. I'd love to build like a proxy contract or something that's like routing that decision to then just like initiate the MetaMask of that user or something. Um, but yeah, I think this is. I mean, it's obviously a very interesting problem that we'd like to solve, and it's
Mm-hmm.
ideal, of course, if we can make it happen right in the browser, or right in the Telegram interface. Um,
Yeah.
just also, of course, like want to be conscious of where the private keys are being hosted and uh, making it as non-custodial as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Yeah.
so, yeah, and so like so essentially, and I mean once we have integrated like the V2 contracts or the account contracts, then it'll just it could be that the it's just like an interface that well again it's like are we in Telefield? If we're in Telefield, then you can just hit the like button, and if you're just in Telegram, you can either opt for a guardian key that and let me talk to James and see if we can build a guardian key system that has encrypted like private keys, or use a Taurus or Portus as that guardian key. Um,
Mm-hmm.
for MetaMask, it would mean that you would need to actually pull your private key from your MetaMask account or yeah, copy it and then paste it somewhere else so that you can submit that transaction.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But you
and
just do that
so,
once,
yeah,
right? So you'd like
you just do it
drop that
once.
into the
Yeah,
bot. Yeah.
exactly.
Okay,
You
cool.
drop it into an interface, and then,
I mean,
and so, yeah.
yeah, like so obviously this kind of goes against like security best practices to
Mm-hmm,
like copy
mm-hmm,
paste your private key, but like for fuck's sake, like we're not going to be like tweeting nuclear launch codes via Telegram bots. Like
mm-hmm.
if someone just has like an ETH in their bot or something, like cool, like it's not that big of a deal.
Exactly.
So like
Exactly. That's my
I
thinking
think
too. And
like
how many people are going to be fighting over like your voting rights on a DAO, right? Like, unless it's like extremely sensitive or you're actually voting on $1 million like DAO proposal or something, it's not going to be that important, and not many people are, so I agree with you.
Yeah, because I think like, maybe in a year or two that'll happen. We'll have some really big communities doing some really cool stuff. But by then, hopefully we'll have optimized some of this stuff. But like for now, I think if we can just set it up so that there is encryption, like maybe the key gets encrypted client side. So when it goes to the server, it can perform the signature, but you guys don't see what the key is or whatever. I mean, I think that's fine. Or if it can be via Taurus, like I hear like people really like Taurus. It's really easy to use. That would also be awesome.
Right.
Telefuel would be great, but I still want to figure out what their business model is, because if it requires users to pay for it, then that kind of might not quite be good for onboarding, although it looks like it's an awesome app. So still a little on the fence there. And because like 99.99% of Telegram users use the regular client, we want to make it work for that, but totally open to Telefuel integrations in the future once they've kind of stabilized a bit.
Of course. Yeah, no, and that makes sense. Okay, cool. So I feel like, that all makes a lot of sense. And we'll just like work with each other on that specific piece of the design, and I'll do my best to make it as native as possible.
Cool. Okay. So I think what we'll do then is, it sounds like you actually need to talk to, well, you know what we can do. Okay, here's what we can do. What we'll do is, I've got to hop off this call here in a few minutes. I've got another call. But then today, we'll just kind of write out what the things are that this is going to do, right? So we'll say like, the user will be able to do blank, and then this will happen, and then this will happen, and blah, blah, blah. And then you guys can figure out exactly how that works on the back end. And then that way we can just get the damn project started. And you guys can start building shit, and then we'll have some cool stuff to play around with. And then at the end of it, the concrete things that we identify, the user can do A, B, and C, right? Will happen, and then everyone's happy. And then Signal DAO or DAO Ops / Signal DAO, they're kind of the same thing. Are they different? I don't know.
So yeah, Signal DAO is the first implementation of the DAO Ops like space. I think of DAO Ops as like it's like an office suite for DAOs, right? It's like all the tools you need to interact with your DAO.
Sure. Okay. So anyways, so that'll happen, and then voting will be as easy as liking, and the world will live happily ever after.
Yes, exactly. I love it. Yes.
Okay.
Epic.
Cool. All right. So are you going to be around in the next couple hours if I want to shoot a doc over and like we can go back and forth on that?
Yes. So it's 7 o'clock here, but please do shoot the doc over so we can go back and forth. I'll probably be back on in like 3 or 4 hours, and I'll be on for like an hour and a half or so. But yeah, so yes, that'd be great.
Well, so we do signatures and payments on Thursdays. So
I see. So that's why you want to get it done now.
Locked down, we can. Yeah, you can start tomorrow. Or,
beautiful. Okay. I will be on.
Oh, I say it's a wait a week.
If that's the situation, yes.
Cool beans. All right. So, all right, cool. Let's do it.